So I, like a lot of folks, take the train every day. And like many of these New Yorkers, I'm on guard now more than ever because of the recent incidents on the subway.
That's right. But when it comes to crime underground, the numbers tell a different story. Crime also trending down across the city as a whole. So joining us this morning to break it down for us, NYPD Transit Chief Michael Kemper and NYPD Chief of Crime Control Strategies Michael Lipetri. So great to have both of you here this morning. Chief Lipetri, I want to begin with this breaking news that we've been following overnight. 19-year-old Christian Montrose shot and killed in Canarsie, Brooklyn on a sidewalk while he was getting out of his vehicle. What is the latest about that case that we know so far and who you're looking for?
Well, obviously, it's a very new investigation. You know, it just happened early this morning. Like you said, close to his residence, coming out of his vehicle, and it's being investigated by the NYPD.
And also a lot of folks paying attention to the case in East Flatbush, the police involved shooting the man there killed. What can you tell us? Was that person targeting that couple?
So I could just say this, that's what New York City police officers do every day. They drive towards gunfire, they run towards gunfire. They actively engage an individual that was firing at two other individuals, like you said. Look, New York City police officers have averaged over 4,000 gun arrests over the past 3 years. That is at a 25-year high. Think about that, 4,000 gun arrests each year over the past 3 years. So they are actively engaged in taking guns off the streets.
Yeah, I want to talk about the guns in just a second, but I also want to focus on the subways. You know, Chief Kemper, just yesterday we were covering this incident at a station in Corona, Queens. Someone slashed at the 111th Street station, right? And when you hear things like that on top of the shooting on the subway car last week, there's this whole perception, right? And I know numbers are numbers, but perception is perception.
Yeah.
And so how do you battle that, and what are you doing about it?
Yeah, I say this all the time. Perception is real. A lot of that has to do with people seeing on the news and what they experience in the subway system. And, you know, the past few weeks, we've experienced some very high-profile, unfortunate incidents, a couple of them tragic, that certainly doesn't help, you know, the case of improving perception and fear. And we clearly recognize our riders' concerns, and to be quite frank, it concerns us also. And, you know, that's why credit to Mayor Adams and the police commissioner with the investment of 1,000 additional cops into the subway system each day patrolling. Every day, 1,000 additional cops in uniform, some in plain clothes, and they're not only visible, but they're engaging, you know, these open acts of lawlessness head on. They're doing an incredible job. And look, I could sit here and tell you crime, and it's true, crime was down 15% in February. Crime is already down 18% so far in March. But what does that mean to people that hear these stories and are afraid?
Yeah. I mean, you have the National Guard down there. You're doing bag checks. Have you been able to find weapons on anyone with these bag checks and having more officers there?
So yeah, so our footprint, if you will, with the bag checks has expanded. With the assistance of the MTA police, the National Guard, and New York State Police. And we were up front from day one. We welcome any help we can get to advance public safety. That's what this is about, advancing public safety. And their presence is a uniform presence that's accepted. It's appreciated by our riders. And, you know, so far no explosives have been recovered, no weapons, which is a good thing. I'd like to say maybe because we were there. But again, their presence holds so much value, just being there, offering our riders a sense of comfort, and again, setting the tone of law and order in our subway system.
Yeah, I mean, I said to you last time you were here for Picks on Politics that people usually carry the weapon on their body, not necessarily in their bag. But I want to go back to your crime numbers for a second, because you talked about the gun arrests, right, and the guns recovered. That's really important. There's also a whole new slew of guns that are coming into the city, right? So how are you tackling it's like you get them off the street and then they come right back in. So how do you kind of battle that?
Well, we just continue to focus on the individuals that are pulling the trigger in New York City or carrying an illegal weapon. Look, we know who's pulling a trigger in New York City, and it's a very, very small percentage. It's less than 1,000 people that have been at multiple shooting incidents over the past 2 years, and those individuals, each one of those individuals are under investigation by one of our investigative units throughout the city.
And what about ghost guns, though?
Ghost guns, look, we have really been proactive in ghost guns. Our intelligence bureau, our detective bureau, the men and women out there every day taking guns off the street, we take a lot of ghost guns off the street. We're working with our federal partners. We're working with our local DAs to make sure that we also get that prosecution when we get a ghost gun.
Yeah, I mean, ghost guns are a whole new reality. And also, you know, I'm looking at the department as a whole, and a lot of you have come out and spoken about laws need to be changed or other partners in government need to be part of this? You and I have talked about this as well, as has Chief Shell. So where is that conversation in terms of getting other people involved in changing things? And when you say change things, are you talking more about bail reform?
So I'm talking about the entire justice system
Okay.
needs to be looked at and maybe tweaked. Let me say this.
Yeah.
This should be eye-opening and jarring to you and your viewers. Just in the subway system last year, over 13,000 arrests were made. When looking at those 13,000 arrests, we identified 124 people that were arrested 5 or more times last year in the subway system. When looking at those 125 people in their careers and their lifetimes, those 125 people combined have been arrested over 7,500 times.
And out of that,
in their life. So
how much was mental health a factor there?
I'm sure in some, but here's the question, or here's the issue. If anyone's curious what the NYPD, what your cops are doing, we've arrested those 124 people 7,500 times. What is the rest of the justice system doing? And we're talking about entities, we're talking about judges, prosecutors, and state lawmakers that have a big role on the dispositions and the sentencing and the consequences. And we also say that we're accessible and we're held accountable. And here we are, and we're always out front, the NYPD. Where is everyone else?
Yeah, because a lot of folks are asking, if you know who they are, why are they continuing to be able to be allowed back on the street to commit the crimes
that's the
again?
question we're asking right now. And again, I want to drive that point home. Your cops are making arrests at or near historic highs in the subway system. It's once those arrests are made, what is happening to those arrests? Where are the consequences? And without consequences, where is the deterrent? And that's what we're experiencing, and that's our challenge.
But where does mental health play a factor there?
Well, mental health plays a factor. Look, mental health plays a factor in crime, both as victims and people committing crimes. You know, more often than not, you'll see these high-profile, unfortunate incidents, people randomly, unprovoked, pushing people onto the train tracks. More often than not, that's driven by mental health, and that has to be taken in consideration. But just because someone suffers from mental health does not mean that there doesn't need to be consequences. Again, if you don't want to send the person to jail because they don't qualify for jail, well, they need to be held. They need to be held somewhere.
Okay.
And they are threats to the public.
Yeah. Before we let you go, I had mentioned to you my question about ghost guns. We're hearing something about ghost cars. What exactly is that?
So a ghost car is a car that's not easily identifiable. Usually it's a car that has a mismatched plate, or they do not have a plate at all, or they are covering their plate. And that also includes mopeds. And mopeds are really the modus operandi, the transportation that a lot of individuals are using to commit robberies and grand larcenies. We've seized over...
Talking about asylum seekers too?
I'm sorry?
Talking about asylum seekers too?
No, I'm not talking about asylum seekers. I'm just talking about the criminal population as a whole. And what I also like to say is that we've seized over 33,000 of these so-called ghost cars and or mopeds over the past.
Down on this right now.
We have cracked down, and we're going to continue to crack down. But again, a lot of these ghost cars are stolen vehicles, and Mike hit it. There's really not much consequences for being arrested in a stolen vehicle in New York City, and that's just a fact.
Yeah, I think there's also going to be this whole idea of what's going to happen when congestion pricing happens. These ghost plates that might be more and more, not to give anybody any ideas, but we got to leave it there because we're out of time. Chief Lipetri, Chief Kemper, great to see you. Thanks for being here to talk about this.
Thank you. Good morning.